Welcome to another deep dive, everybody. And today we're going to be looking at something that uh, I think we all use every single day, probably without even really thinking about it. We're going to be talking about adverbs.
Adverbs.
You might think adverbs are just those words that, end in ably.
Right.
But trust me, there's a whole universe of subtlety and power hidden inside these little words.
Absolutely. You're so right. We take adverbs for granted, I think, but they really are like this secret ingredient to making language come alive, you know?
So let's get right into it.
Yeah, let's do it.
When we say adverb, what does that even mean?
Yeah.
What are they doing in our sentences?
Well, think of it this way. Like, imagine you're describing, I don't know, something to a friend. Like how someone said something. You wouldn't just say, like, they said it right. You'd add a little more detail. You'd be like, they said it sarcastically, or they whispered it softly. Those extra words, that's your adverbs. They're adding depth and nuance to the basic action.
I like that. They add flavor.
They do.
Now, this is what gets really interesting for me. Because I always thought adverbs were, like I said before, those Lily words. But you're saying it's more about the job the word is doing in the sentence rather than what it looks like.
Absolutely. You're completely right. It's not about the form of the word. It's about the function. So sometimes even a word can be an adjective or an adverb depending on its role in the sentence.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So I'm still a little fuzzy on that. Could you break that down for me a little bit?
Absolutely. Yeah. Let's just take the word fast. Okay.
Okay.
So if we have the phrase a fast runner, fast is describing the runner, which is a noun, so it's an adjective.
Right.
But if we say he runs fast, now fast is describing the verb runs, which makes it an adverb.
Oh, okay.
Same word, different hats.
Yeah, that's interesting.
Yeah.
So you can it's almost like you can bend the words a little bit.
Exactly.
To do what you need them to do.
Yeah.
That's so cool. I never really thought about it that way before. It's like you're looking at this thing and now you're seeing it in a totally different way.
Yeah. I
You're
guess.
seeing the matrix, like the matrix code behind it or something like that.
I love that. That's a great analogy.
Now here's something else that blew my mind. Adverbs can even describe other adverbs.
They can.
I didn't even know if that was allowed.
I know. It might sound a little crazy,
Yeah.
like linguistic gymnastics or something, but it's actually more common than you think.
Okay.
Yeah. So think of a sentence like, she spoke incredibly softly. Okay. So the word softly is an adverb describing how she spoke, but then incredibly takes it a step further and tells us how softly she spoke.
Oh.
So it's almost like layering flavors.
I like that. Layering flavors.
It creates a more complex taste.
So adverbs then aren't just single words, they're also phrases, right? Like whole phrases can be adverbs.
Absolutely. Yeah, you can think about phrases like last week or in the morning.
Okay.
Those are phrases that add detail about when something happened. So they're functioning just like those single word adverbs.
So it's like adverbs are the ninjas of grammar.
I love that.
They just sneak in there.
Yeah.
They're quiet, they're deadly, they change everything and you don't even notice.
They really do. You're so right.
So let's get real here for a sec. I mean, do we really need to get this deep into adverbs? Does it really matter that much?
It might seem like we're splitting hairs or something, but trust me, like when you understand adverbs, it can drastically change how you use language.
Okay.
So imagine you're writing an email or you're giving a presentation.
Yeah.
Choosing the right adverb can make your message more persuasive, more impactful, even more memorable. It's about wielding the power of language with precision and intention. You know what I mean?
Yeah, like you can really get in there and fine tune it.
Exactly.
I like that.
Yeah.
So I'm starting to see the light here. It's like adverbs are this invisible hand, that's shaping the flavor of the sentences, right? Like you don't always see them, but you sure taste the difference.
Right.
But now I'm kind of wondering, like, where do these sneaky little words even go in a sentence?
Yeah.
Is there like some kind of secret code or something like that I need to know?
Adverb placement, it's funny you should mention that because it can feel a little bit like a jungle gym. There's definitely structure, but there's also a lot of flexibility depending on, what you're trying to emphasize.
So, like, there are some rules, but also a lot of wiggle room.
Exactly.
That's language for you.
Exactly. But even seasoned writers, sometimes they'll play around with adverb placement to get like the exact effect they want.
Right.
There are some helpful guidelines though. Like for example, if you have a verb like that's made up of two words, like have finished. The adverb often goes right in the middle.
Okay.
So instead of saying like, I have finished quickly my work, you would say, I have quickly finished my work.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, that sounds way more natural.
Exactly.
What about those times though where it feels like you could put the adverb in like, I don't know, a bunch of different places? Like, how do you even know what's right?
That's where, you have to develop an ear for the language. It really is about what sounds the most natural, the most clear.
Okay.
But there are definitely some patterns you can kind of pick up on, like, adverbs of time, like tomorrow or yesterday. They usually like to hang out at the end of a sentence.
Right, right.
And then adverbs of frequency, like always or never, they like to be kind of close to the main verb.
Okay, so it's not just random chaos. There's a method to the madness.
There is. There totally is.
Are there times, though? Are there times when you break, quote unquote, the rules
Yeah.
and it makes the writing better?
Absolutely. Because sometimes, like, if you put an adverb in kind of an unexpected spot,
Yeah.
it can really add emphasis.
Oh, okay.
Or, like, create a certain rhythm. You can think of it almost like, I don't know, like a chef adding like a pinch of salt to a dessert.
Right.
That little bit of surprise, it just makes it more interesting.
That pop, yeah. Okay, but let's be honest. Like, don't even native English speakers like mess this stuff up sometimes.
Totally. Because language is a living thing.
Yeah.
It evolves, it changes all the time. So even the most like experienced writers, they might, stumble over adverb placement or whatever. The key is just to be aware and make conscious choices that serve your purpose.
So I'm getting this feeling then that like mastering adverbs is less about memorizing rules and it's more about developing this like sensitivity to the music of language.
Absolutely. You're completely right. It is about understanding the nuance and how those things can like subtly shift meaning and impact.
Hold on, let me just get my head around that for a second. So you're saying by simply tweaking where we put an adverb, we can actually change how our message is received.
Totally.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. It's about intentionality. And it's about understanding those subtle effects that these seemingly small words can have.
I came into this deep dive, I was thinking adverbs were just like a minor detail. But now I'm realizing like they're almost like a control panel for fine-tuning your communication.
I love that. I love that analogy.
So if I'm getting this right, mastering adverbs then is less about avoiding grammatical errors and it's more about using them as tools to make our language more vibrant, more persuasive, more us.
Absolutely. It is about owning your voice and wielding the power of these often overlooked words to make real impact.
Wow. This deep dive has been a real eye-opener. It's like I've been speaking and writing in black and white, and now suddenly someone's handed me a whole box of crayons.
I love that. That's the beauty of language. There's always more to discover. There's always more to explore. And the more we understand about those nuances of grammar, the more colorful and compelling I think our communication becomes.
So we've covered a lot of ground here.
We have.
From, like what adverbs are to the fascinating world of their placement.
Totally.
But before we wrap things up, I'd love to get your take on why this all matters. Like, what's the big takeaway you want our listeners to walk away with?
I think a lot of people when they hear like grammar deep dive, they kind of tune out.
Right.
Yeah. Like, this is going to be boring.
Yeah.
But honestly, this has been anything but boring. I know. I agree. I think adverbs, they're often seen as kind of like dry and technical little words.
Right.
But as we've been discussing, they're anything but. They really are the key to adding that that depth and that color and personality to our communication.
It's like we've been looking at a painting our whole lives.
Yeah.
And we're only now like noticing the brush strokes
I love that.
that make it a masterpiece.
Yeah, that's a beautiful way to put it. And I think it really highlights why understanding adverbs is so important. It's not just about like getting the grammar right.
Right.
It's about unlocking a whole new level of expressiveness and impact.
So as we kind of wrap up our deep dive here into the world of adverbs, what's like one key takeaway you would want to leave our listeners with?
Ooh, that's a good question. I would say the biggest takeaway is just to embrace the power of adverbs. Don't be afraid to, experiment with them, play with their placement, and just see how they can really transform your writing and speaking.
And remember, it's not about memorizing a bunch of rules.
No.
You know, it's about developing a feel for the language.
Mm-hmm.
Trust your instincts.
Yeah,
Listen to how things sound.
exactly.
And don't be afraid to break the mold once in a while.
Absolutely. Language is meant to be explored. It's meant to be played with.
Hmm.
And, the more we understand about the nuances of grammar, I think the more creative and effective we become as communicators.
That's so well said.
Oh, thank you.
Well, hey, thanks for joining us on this adventure into the world of adverbs.
Yeah, this was fun.
Until next time, everybody.